Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night to whoever you are, wherever you are. Welcome back to the channel. So today's going to be a rather quick live stream. We're not going to do too much today. Honestly, I don't want to say boring, but a rather slow-ish week. But some big things are playing out. I'm picking up some, oops, don't want to have too much of an echo there. There we go. Anywho, I am picking up on some signs and stuff just from the market itself. You know, looking at Bitcoin specifically today, I can tell that we're getting prepared for another move. And I would assume that going into the weekend, we'll probably have a slow-ish weekend, but this could be as soon as Monday/Tuesday. And so, of course, I want to make sure that you guys are as prepared for that as possible. And so, with that said, we're just going to get this stream up. Let me know let me know that everything looks good, just making sure everything looks all right. Sounds good. And yeah, we'll get into it in a second here. But overall, a rather good week, I would say. Whenever you see a week kind of similar to what we've seen over the last few weeks where everything is green and everything's exciting, you start to question what's going to happen next, right? You start to wonder, like, is this going to last? And I think that's what's been on everyone's minds recently. Like, is this going to last? Is this a bear market rally? Is this the beginning of a green year? What is this, right? And I think whenever we actually see stability after a lot of green, it's a good sign to show that people aren't just immediately going to start selling off. So with that said, I kind of want to just talk about what I'm expecting next, what you need to be on the lookout for over the weekend, into next week, and yeah, so we'll get into it. But overall, looks as if our notifications have gone out, so let's get started with the live stream, shall we? Also, my new microphone is on the way, so hopefully we don't keep having those ridiculous audio issues. But anywho, let's get into it. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And we'll kind of zoom in on this a little bit. So just a general market update before we get into the actual technical analysis side of things today. Let's get this up. There we go. So looking at Bitcoin currently sitting at $23,000. I do believe that is accurate. Yep, there we go. $23,000 up. Not really doing much over the last 24 hours, but on the 7 days, we are up about 9%. Ethereum, very flat this week. Flat day, flat week. BNB, very similar, but up a little bit. Of course, BNB is up around 5%, which isn't terrible. It's definitely not terrible, especially, compared to something like ETH only being up 1%. XRP, similar, 3.8%. Cardano up substantially, 11% on the week. Dogecoin up 5%. Matic, absolutely freaking destroying it, up 18% on the week. Solana also up 12%, DOT up 9% as well. Now we also have Shiba Inu flat, and then the rest of them were relatively flat this week. But of course, the standout in my opinion was Matic. No surprise here, you guys know that I'm a Matic bull, Matic stan, Matic fan, all of the above. And totally, we can see that there were also some pretty interesting developments this week. Of course, Aptos has somewhat been on fire, honestly. I mean, we know this thing did have an absolutely disappointing launch, to say the least, especially as this thing launched around, that say $8-ish level, crashing all the way back down to say around $2-3. Of course, I know a lot of people were much more excited about it, so when it did crash like that, everyone was a little bit disappointed. But Aptos currently up to about $17.80. We're already starting to see people doing the whole, oh, this is the next Aptos stuff on YouTube, no shade. So I think that's a decent sign, but obviously, there's a lot of proving still to do. But anywho, total market cap looking well, holding that $1 trillion mark pretty well. That's $1,048,576,000,000. That's holding up well, and of course 24-hour volume also up quite substantially. So overall, general market does look healthy. I'm not going to sit on this for too long, but there we go. Sorry, I had to check my mic. But everything does look rather good week, honestly. And so with that said, what all is going on? Well, the title of today's live stream is that a strong Bitcoin move inbound could shake up altcoins, and I want to just get straight into that. We're not going to waste any time. I want to get straight into that because I'm starting to pick up on something here, okay? So I've been genuinely curious about where people think this thing is going to go, okay? What is going to happen here? Now, we're on the hourly charts on Bitcoin, this Bitcoin US dollar Bitstamp chart here. And I was curious about where people think this little sideways consolidation is going to go. Do they think it's going to bounce, or do they think it's going to crash? So I went on my Twitter. I'm going to get back into this in a second. But I went on my Twitter, and I made this earlier, a couple hours ago. What's next for Bitcoin? 25K or 20K? Now, people thought, you may assume that this is just, also go follow Twitter if you haven't yet. Shameless plug. But people oftentimes think that this might just be a bit of a, like, you know, just substantial levels, 20,000 or 25,000, but that's actually not the case. I wanted to know what people think are going to happen here, because there actually is, that's the range we're in right now. Okay. So what I'm noticing from Bitcoin is that, of course, we are in an ascending structure. Now, ascending structures are generally bearish. Okay. There are times, and maybe if I look close enough, where we have pumped off of ascending structure. Okay, there's really not that many. Okay, here we go. This one. Like, so for example, we had this moment back here. Let's see if I can get this 4-hour charts put up. We had this moment back here where we were at the top of a move. We got ascending structure like this, and we did pump, right? But the issue with it is that we did capitulate out of it first. Before we got this move to the upside, we pulled out of it. We came back down to the previous low, established support, and then continued upwards. But even though you can see here, even though we did pump here off of this ascending structure, we did pull to the downside of it. And as you can see, that is the commonality. That's the tendency. Generally speaking, whenever it comes to ascending structure, which is what we are in right now, we will almost always break to the downside of it, at least at some point. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, the reason that that's important is because we're sitting in a very interesting range right now, okay? The reason why we're sitting in a very interesting range is because we could be in position in which, if this does continue, we may be in a position to clear this whole entire range that we had been in throughout this, you know, last near 6 months, 7 months. You guys know that one of the main goals that we have right now is to break this descending structure in which we were in this. And I'm all about structure, as you can see, but what you can see here is that we were in descending structure. And I told you that once we got a breakout, the goal is to get back above all of your most recent highs within that descending structure. Once you're capable of doing that, you have cleared, usually, the possibility of seeing some type of huge fake out back to the downside. And the likelihood is you are actually in a new point in the cycle, which in this example, if we're capable of breaking this $25,200 level, yeah, now we're in position to genuinely see a change in the tide over the next year or two. And the bottom could very well be in, but we have to get through this descending structure and make sure that we're not just going to see a fake out up here that pumps us right back into this descending structure. So the reason why this is so important is because that could be happening right now. We could be in a situation where if we bounce off the bottom side of this descending structure one more time, maybe in position to set the new higher high, right? Now, looking at this, there's no way of knowing when this thing is going to break to the downside, but I'm telling you, it is going to break to the downside at some point if it is going to follow history at all. Now, if it makes a new historical development and it just does this, well, damn, you know, that's just what happens. It's hard to predict history, like, you know, a new history moment, but that's just not common. It's very rare that this happens, and I just don't see a reason as to why that would happen, especially after we saw this massive pump in crypto, okay? So what I want you all to be on the close lookout for is, how do we interact in this ascending structure? So generally speaking, when we look for ascending structure here, whenever we see growth of this nature, it's rather easy to predict, okay? It's rather easy to predict. When we see the break to the downside, what usually is going to happen is we're going to break to the downside and backtest it. If that backtest is successful and we get back inside of it, then we really might see some growth out of this thing. At that given point, we got to fake out to the downside, possibly looking for continuation for a breakout to the upside. That is possible. But if, for example, let's get this put up. If this backtest fails right here and we start to capitulate, what usually happens? Well, what usually happens is that you are going to come back down to your most recent level of support on that ascending structure. And in this example, that is going to be, first and foremost, $22,364 right here where we touched it. So what you're going to do is say, okay, we broke out. Where was the most recent time that we touched the bottom side? That would have been right here, and right here. And then what you're going to do is draw trend lines at each one of those, or just horizontal lines. So it tells us that these are the levels in which we might bounce off of. We might come back down here and bounce. But if we lose this one, then we're in position to visit this one and bounce. If we lose that one, we're in position to visit this one, then bounce. If we lose that one, you get the point, okay? These are your tests, right? These are the levels which are going to test that bearishness to see if we can get a bounce off of it at some given point. And so overall right now, I'm watching very, very closely how this plays out. The reason being is because, for example, if Bitcoin breaks out over the next couple of days, and we see a push towards $22,325, right? And this happens. We try to bounce off of it, we fail, and we capitulate. What you can see back here is that there was very little liquidity. Very little liquidity. Understand this. When we go straight through a level upwards, we're likely to go straight through that level going down, right? Let's look at an example of that on the macros. What you can see back here. You see how when, for example, I'm trying to give you guys an example. Here we go. In between where we were right here and where we were right here, we went straight up through it. Look at how the moment we lost it to that level again, we went straight down through it. You see, straight up, straight down. It's just because there's a lacking of liquidity there. And so it's similar on the shorter time frames. All the time frames coincide with each other. And so what I'm looking at right here is to say that, okay, well, if we do lose $22,325, the likelihood here is that we do see some type of capitulation all the way back down to $20,800, if not $20,000, which is then going to be a very, very big determining moment of if this is actually going to be some type of bear market rally. And next thing you know, we just see this thing capitulate and now we're back where we first started. Or if we're going to be able to establish some type of high or low and see continuation to the upside as we possibly start another wave towards $20,000 to $30,000 to $31,000, right? That is why this level is so important. Understand this. If we come back down and lose 20K, we're probably in a bear market rally. And now we're going to probably ABC wave, A, B, C to the downside. And now we're back in the teens. And now everybody's saying, oh, I told you it was a bear market rally, and all the bearishness kicks in. And now we have to look to come all the way back down to try to set a higher low, right? But if that's not the case, and we hold and break and get back above this point, we could very clearly say, okay, we are in a completely different part of this market. Everything is shifted at this given point. We are now in a point in time in which the bear market bottom could very well be in. And now we're in a situation that now that we have broken these lows, broken these highs, broken this descending structure, well, maybe 2023 is going to be a rather green year, right? This is the determination that is happening right now. And this ascending structure is kind of at the core of all of it, okay? And so what I want you to be wary of is this is exactly what I want you to do. Go on your charts, turn on logarithmic, okay? The next thing you're going to want to do is take your line, and you are simply just going to draw it from these lows that we put in right here, this low, to this low right here. Okay, now this is only a 2-touch. I would like to have seen a 3-touch. It's only a 2-touch, but we did have a little bit of confirmation of support right here and also right here. So it tells us that this general vicinity is holding a support. Okay, then what I want you to do is draw your trend line from the tops to the tops, just like this. Okay, so what you're going to be on the lookout for is if the price of Bitcoin is going to fall down below these previous lows. Now, you know what we can do? I would say let's go here. I'd say let's go here. So what you're going to do is just simply shift your trend line just a little bit. It's just a more accurate representation. Realistically, it's all about the same. But what you can see is that we've had multiple touches on trend here. 1, 2, 3, 4 now, rather than just these two. Okay, these are the little two fake out wicks. Anywho, and anyway, so what you're going to look for is, do we start getting closes below this trend line? And I'm not worried about the hours. Let's talk about the 4 hours. Okay, on the 4 hours, do we start getting closes below this trend line? If we do, then we're in a situation where we're likely going to come down to our previous points of support. Okay, our previous points of support in this example are 22,325 right here, and then they're also going to next be 20,000, let's call it 21,000, and then 20,300. These are your 3 levels of support that you need to be on the lookout for. And the moment that we lose one, we're going likely all the way down to the next, then all the way down to the next. Fix your screens. Okay, hold on one second. There we go. Appreciate that, Pat. Appreciate that, bro. So anywho, this is what we're looking at. Okay, the moment you lose one of these levels of support, you're going to the next one. Then you're going to the next one. So the question then becomes, do we hold them or do we not? It is extremely likely that we are going to go to the downside of this previous point of support right here at some given point. And these are going to be the 3 barriers that are going to stop this thing from capitulating and throwing us back down into the ugliness that we saw, in the end of last year. So be paying very close attention to this. For example, if Bitcoin was to fall all the way to this one, that's a 12% crash, 12% fall to the downside. For something like Solana, for something like Ethereum, for something like Matic, maybe not Matic because Matic's kind of doing its own thing recently, that could be capitulation of 20, 25, 30%. And so it's very vastly important that you watch how this ascending structure plays out. Now, let's play the other side of this. Let's say, well, what does happen if we bounce off of this level? Give me 1 second. So what happens if we bounce off of this? What happens if, you know, this isn't the moment where we're going to capitulate, and maybe we get one more move similar to like this, where we ride it, and then boom, we get a little shot to the upside here, okay? Well, what we can see is that that would be actually very good for the macro, but doesn't change much for the short term. What do I mean by that? Let's start with the short term. In the short term, that just says, okay, we're still in a ascending wedge. We're still going to capitulate at some given point, okay? So the only thing that would change is to say where are, you know, we might build a level of support somewhere up here. Maybe we do something like this and then like that. And then now we have a new level of support, say at $24,000. But realistically, there is still a very high likelihood that some type of pullback and capitulation out of this ascending wedge is going to happen. And so in the short term, it doesn't really change much. It is great, of course, that we saw this push to the upside, and that does give you opportunity to take some more profits and do things like that. But realistically, in the short term, a capitulation is still very likely, okay? But in the macro, why would that be a great thing? In the macro, that would be a great thing because, again, the goal right now is to break 25,250. If we're capable of breaking 25,250, that puts us above our macro high, and it also puts us above what people consider to be a little bear market rally that we had back here. Whenever we saw the market capitulate, right after all of this bad stuff started to happen with Luna and all that stuff, you know, of course, May and June and July, that time, we saw a beautiful bounce to the upside that got stopped at 25,260. And so at this given point, we don't want to see that same level reject us again. And so considering that, we want to see ourselves get back above it. And as I mentioned earlier, that is also going to be the point in which would give us clarity to say that, okay, we're probably not faking out of this descending channel, right? A fake out of a descending channel looks like us not being able to break the recent high on it, and then we get rejected back down into it. We do not want to see this happen. And so the only way we avoid that, as I mentioned before, is simply by getting back above this level. So if we are capable of seeing a push one more back to the upside here, pushing back up towards 25.5, $26,000 for the macro, that is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so it really just depends on what happens here. Now, I am saying that I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. You guys know I'm not one of those YouTubers who's going to sit here and pretend like I know what happens or I have like this future predicting device. My goal isn't to be right. My goal is to be prepared. I don't care about the ego boost of calling something correctly. I just want to make sure that you all are as prepared as possible for it. So the way that I would be preparing this is that there are some opportunities for trades on both sides of this. If I was going to be trading it to the downside, and that means shorting it, which I would be doing very minimally right now with nowhere near a lot of money, what I would be doing is looking for a loss of 22,000. Let's call this level, let's get that pushed back right there. Let's call this level 22,330, okay? If we lose that level, as I mentioned before, I do believe a short trade back down to some of these lower levels, maybe even 21.25 or something like that, which does look like a nice little move of roughly 4 to 5% or so on Bitcoin. I do believe that would be a rather decent trade simply because there is a very strong lacking of liquidity in here and that we are usually going to capitulate through that similarly. Now, understand it might do something like this where it backtests and then goes down, but one way or another, I would expect some type of pull through this level to happen. Now, once we lose $21,200, I wouldn't really be doing any shorting below that level for a little while just because there is a lot of liquidity right here. There's all these little support levels that we established back here, and because of that, we might get a lot of these little herky jerks and bounces, and you don't want to be a part of that. Trust me, it's very frustrating. But below that, of course, if we were to lose say $20,000, then we are then in another position in which a short trade down towards $19,000 could be available. So these little gaps right here between 20 and 19 and between 22.3 and 21.25 do look like two good shorting opportunities for me. But again, I would be shorting very minimally, not high leverage whatsoever, and nowhere near a lot of money. Okay, because again, in the macro, the odds of crashes are becoming less likely and the odds of pumps are becoming more likely as we edge towards a bull market. Okay, so that's how I'll be playing it to the upside. If I was playing this to the downside. Now, if I was playing this to the upside, I really wouldn't be, honestly. I really wouldn't be, because I think that there's a lot of risk to it. But if you just absolutely must, what I would say is look for it to get back above 23.327, this previous close on the 4 hours. If we're capable of doing that and we get a 4-hour close, not a wick like this, but a 4-hour close above this level, we could be in position to see a bit of a continuation, maybe at towards $24,000. And there could be a long trade to take on there. I really believe it's risky in the short term. I feel like we're going to get a capitulation or a drop out of this ascending wedge at some point. And I feel like if you go long right here, you're just playing a risky freaking game, okay? Like I said, I could be wrong, and history cannot repeat itself, and we could go straight up out of this ascending wedge. But that's just not what usually happens, and I'm not going to bet on what doesn't usually happen, okay? So just be very careful if you're going long right here. So how does this impact our altcoins? Well, interestingly enough, our altcoins are actually making very, very similar moves to what we're seeing for Bitcoin. So let's first off start off with Ethereum, and as you can see, it is looking very similar here, okay? Looking at ETH, we have made a few attempts to break to the downside of this. What's up, everybody? Welcome in, welcome in. Make sure you guys do like this on your way in, by the way. Make sure you do like this on your way in. Let's see, before we go into ETH, looking at about 21 likes with 100 people in here. Let's get that up to about 30, 40 likes. That'd be great. But anywho, looking at Ethereum, okay, we can see that Ethereum is in a very similar position. What Ethereum is doing at this given point is that it's deciding, am I about to break out of this ascending structure or not? Am I about to be able to hold this level or not, right? And so at this given point for ETH, it's a very similar strategy. If we come back down below this level, you can very clearly see there's a strong little area of resistance right here. I don't know why my screen's doing that. There we go. There's a strong little area of support in which if we break down to this, we're looking at $1,500. If $1,500 is lost, I would expect capitulation down to some of these lower levels. I would expect, a push down towards $1,400. I would expect a possible push to $1,350, revisiting some of these previous highs. Why is that? Because again, remember, look at this. Look at this. There's a gap. And there's a gap. We went basically straight up through this level and straight down through this level. So if we start coming back down below this level, do expect some type of possible capitulation as far as from 1,500 all the way down to 1,350. That's a push of 10% to the downside, okay? Now that wouldn't shock me. Genuinely, it wouldn't shock me. Why is that? If we look at this from a more macro perspective, you can see here that we are in a position in which we did have a cup and handle pattern on the macro, or Adam and Eve, and we didn't come back to retest it yet. We broke back above it. We ran into this previous high right up here, this one. And now we could be in position to come retest it, try to establish a higher low before looking for continuation. That is very common. That's usual. That's a normal thing that happens here, okay? And so I want you all to just simply be prepared for that possible correction and capitulation if Ethereum does lose $1,500. That is not a bad short trade in my opinion. If you start seeing that 4-hour or the daily candles close below this level, especially after a back test like this, yeah, we're probably going to capitulate, and a short trade is a decent idea. But remember, we're in the middle of whale games. We're in the middle of bullshit. We're in the middle of a time where the whales are gonna start moving these markets in weird directions to liquidate as many people as possible. So do not go in with high leverage right now, okay? But that's for Ethereum. Now, if ETH starts to pump, which, I mean, I guess it could, what I would be looking for is a 1650 break. If we break 1650, likelihood is, we've gotten back above this high and this high. We've invalidated some type of possible head and shoulders here. And I would believe at that given point, we could see a push as high as back to 1750 or somewhere around there. So there could be a decent long trade to take on here. Again, guys, just be careful, because as we are in ascending structure, we are very likely to at least pull to the downside out of it at some given point, okay? So going long right here, you're putting yourself at major, major risk of some type of loss there, okay? So just be careful. And remember, yes, I am saying it could capitulate or it could pump, because it's not about being right here. It's about being prepared. The preparation for Ethereum is if we break 1,500 to the downside, expect a pull of 10%, 8% to 1352. But if we break 1642, there's probably another move towards the top side before then coming back and retesting the bottom side of this channel. Just look for this range to break, okay? How does this affect Matic? Matic's a bit of a different one here. Matic itself is on fire. Now, you all know, and I talked about this in the video yesterday, that for Matic itself, I was really the most concerned about what could happen if we saw this play out as a head and shoulders pattern. I was actually very concerned. If this was going to be some type of left shoulder, this was going to be a head, and if we were forming a right shoulder right here, because that's what it felt like we were doing, right? Now, what was interesting about all of this is that it seemed likely that that's what was playing out. Now, obviously, there is no guarantees. There's no way to genuinely know if it was going to play out in that nature. But what you can see here is that we had a previous high right here, which we put in the left shoulder. We came up on Matic's price and double topped at that exact level and put in exaggerated bearish divergence. So to me, I'm like, hey, guys, if we lose 90 cents, we're likely going to start a huge ass correction to the downside, which could pull us 40 to 50% to the bottom, right? Especially if we lose 75 cents. So be aware of it. I was like, watch 90 cents. And we never lost 90. We came back down, established a higher low, and then used that higher low to break the right shoulder high, back test it, and look for continuation. Matic is one of the best out there right now. It is simply, it's just showing that, okay? It's just showing that, and it's not even close. It's not even close. So for Matic at this given point, obviously, you need to be careful, okay? We have been in a bit of a pump, right? We are still getting bearish divergence in which we have these lower highs on the RSI and higher highs on the price. Some type of larger pullback is going to happen at some point. But in the macro, Matic is just getting started, in my opinion. I made a whole video about it yesterday, so I'm not going to, kind of re-say everything because I know most of you did watch it. But at the end of the day, I do believe Matic is one of the better options. I do believe that Matic is one of the ones to be accumulating. Even right now, during a pump, I still believe there could be possible opportunity for continuation over the long term. And so even if a short-term pullback does happen, I'm not very concerned about what that looks like for Matic, okay? What I would like to see, and one of my biggest goals, especially in the next couple days, is that we're capable of getting the weekly close above this level of roughly 1.135 or about $1.13.5. Okay. The reason why is because this is the FTX crash. So what happened was that Matic itself was growing like crazy. Okay. And as it started to really catch up momentum after the Disney news and all that good stuff, FTX crash happened and forced Matic to the downside. So what I want to see from Matic is that it can shake off all this shit that's happened from FTX and say, this has nothing to do with us. The FTX crash had nothing to do with us. Our value didn't change whatsoever. We're going to continue this move to the top side and just shake off all of the, the scariness that happened with the FTX crash. If Matic is capable of breaking this level, it's capable of getting a daily close or weekly close, above $1 and say 14 cents. That is the confirmation that Matic is it's better than that, and it's better than what happened with FTX, and it's showing it, right? Because a lot of them are not there yet. You look at something like ETH. ETH did it, right? ETH has done it, which is great, but not many of them are really doing it like that. And that just goes to show that Matic is on that same level, right? You look at something like BNB. BNB tried to, but it's not there yet. It hasn't gotten back up above these levels. You look at something like ADA. ADA's done it, but ADA didn't really care about the FTX crash. That shit was crashing way before that. So it just goes to show that Matic is different. It's different, and it's kind of differentiating itself from many of those lower coins and establishing itself as a top 3, a top 5, a top 10. And that's why I'm loving this. So for Matic, really over the next couple days, might see a pullback, might not. But I really want to see that weekly close above $1.14. That would be very, very optimal. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Okay. Speaking of BNB, BNB is looking just like ETH, in my opinion. This is very, very, very ascending. And that also kind of, gives me the feeling like, hey, some type of pullback is likely. So for BNB right now, what I would go ahead and say is, in terms of going long on this thing, I definitely would be very careful. We can see a lot of wicks in these levels. And even when we get to the top side, we're not holding it. And that kind of tells me that there is a lot of bearish liquidity, like kind of get this pulled up, like right here. In this little zone. This is kind of like a red box, okay? And the thing about that is, though, our resistance is barely above that right now. And so that means that even if we do get a pump, we're likely going to get pushed right back down. So for BNB, I would definitely be on the lookout for, just kind of waiting this thing out. I think buying and accumulating or even going long, God forbid, in this point in time where we are ascending, just not the best idea. It doesn't feel like a good idea to me. And so I would definitely, again, be waiting, see some type of loss of here, boom, see if we come back down to retest 281 or so, and then possible continuation. And then we'll make a decision on when we can go long. But going long in ascending structure while we are getting bearish divergence on the macro, very risky, okay? ADA, so ADA, let me establish this. In the macro, looks fantastic, and the micro looks the same as ETH and BNB and all the rest, okay? In the micro, we are ascending. Oh, look at this. 1 second. Okay. Hey, Tyler. Great seeing you live. Just wondering if you're considering doing a TA on Quant in the future. Really into this project. Cheers. Yeah, I can do that. I can definitely do that. And I appreciate the donation, my friend. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But yeah, so yeah, I appreciate that, K. Dang, that's crazy. Thank you, bro. But anyway, looking at ADA here, it's gonna end up pulling out of this at some point. I'm sure of it. Even if it's here, M top at our 786 level, fantastic moment to pull to the downside out of this thing. Come back down to retest the 618, possibly go sideways or something like that, right? Obviously, we could pump. The market could get better, but we're gonna see ADA pull down out of this at some given point. But to me, it doesn't really matter. I still do believe this is a great time to accumulate some ADA because of what's happening on the macros. Okay, on the macros, you can see what happened with this trend line. So as you can see, we broke it. And I was shocked that we broke it so easily, okay? As you can see here, ever since it hit its all-time high in September of 2021, we have consistently been rejected by the same point. And ADA just said, screw it, I don't give a shit, I'm breaking out, I'm done, I'm out of here. And it broke out. And not only did it break out, but in the macro, or the micros in the short terms, on the 4-hour charts, look at this. Look at ADA go. It back-tested successfully, held support, and looked for continuation. So likelihood is we're not just going to capitulate right back down under this trend line. Likelihood is we would go sideways or slowly down and ride that trend line, but it doesn't seem likely for us to just crash right back below it unless something terrible happens. Okay, and so for ADA, right now, ADA looks like a great buy. It just broke out of a macro trend line, and even if it goes sideways for a little while, that could be a great accumulationary period before it comes back up to retest these 45-cent levels, which I do believe it's going to do at some point. And that could be a nice little push of what's that, 17, 20%, something like that? To 45? Yeah, about 17%. So, yeah, I mean, ADA looks great, honestly. Like I said, in the short term, probably going to pull back. Could see something like this coming, but it's not really all that concerning to me. So, love to see it. Let me go over Quant real quick. So, looking at Quant, this thing is going crazy right now. The last time I talked about Quant was actually back in November. Right back here, or October actually, because I remember we got back over $205. We started to put in early signs of bearish divergence, and I said, hey, some type of pullback is on the way, okay? And what ended up happening with Quant, if I remember correctly, is that it ran into Fibonacci resistance and was unable to hold. Was unable to hold at all. What we can see is that it got rejected off of that 618 to 786 level, immediately saw a push down in the price, and was unable to get that bounce back in. And so that was an early sign like, okay, this is going to take a little while. But what ended up happening is that this thing ran into some ascending resistance, interestingly enough, and looks like it's on track to come back up here. Now, personally, I wouldn't necessarily be doing a lot of accumulating on Quant right now, especially in the short term. The reason being is that it's approaching the 618 to 786 level again, which has rejected it on multiple occasions, as well as running into these two previous points of resistance back here and its previous point of support. So $156 is extremely hard for this thing to break right now. And even if it breaks that, then it has 175 right above it. So if it's me, I'm either waiting for Quant to see a little bit of a pullback, possibly even a trend line, or to absolutely just destroy some of these levels, get through 156, get through 175, hold some support and look to continue. And then I'd be like, okay, now we're in a situation where we could see a little bit of growth here. But, you know, buying it right now as it's about to go through this test of this little level, very risky. And not only that, we are seeing this bearish divergence. Lower highs, higher highs. Okay, so for Quant, definitely would be playing that very, very, very slow. Okay. What's next? Don't believe I went over Solana. Did I go over Solana? I don't remember if I went over Solana yet, so let's do it. So looking at Solana, obviously we do have a macro battle happening right now. A macro and a micro battle, interestingly enough. So in the macros, obviously the goal is $25.69. This is the point in which we want to clear. This is the major point of resistance. And the reason being is because whenever we saw this huge move to the downside back in June, that's where we held support. And we've seen that level hold as support previously in previous markets and act as resistance. And so because of that, where I'm at in this point in time is that if we are capable of getting back above this level, we're looking good. Not only are we looking good, that also starts to erase some of what has happened here with the FTX crash. Remember, like I said with Matic, a lot of these cryptos' main goal right now is to see if they've gotten past this FTX crash or not, right? The FTX crash shook up a lot of them. Solana worse than most, right? And because of that, it is now the deciding time. Are we going to shake this off? Or are we still in a pretty bad position from the FTX crash and going to need to come back down to some of these lower levels because we're not prepared and we're not in a situation to have more value than what we had prior to the FTX crash? You guys can see right now, we are at that 618 to 786 level. We are testing it right now. We are deciding on the macros if this is the moment or not. And who knows, right? Who really knows? I don't know. I genuinely do not know what's going to happen right here. That's why for Solana, I'm just sitting back and watching. What I do know is that we are in an ascending structure with bearish divergence playing out on the RSI. What that tells me is that generally speaking, we will see a pullback. So it wouldn't shock me at all to see something like this happen in the short terms, and then we come back up to really retest it. Do we M-top or do we break it? That'll be the biggest question. But for Solana at this given point, there's just a lot going on. Okay, there's just really a lot going on. And that's why I'm not really doing a lot of trading on it at this given point in time. Okay. If we are to come back down and lose $20.40, I would expect a rather strong capitulation to some of these lower levels, maybe even like 1758. The reason being, we can move that up a little bit. I mean, we can say 1860 to 1750, somewhere in here. The reason being is because, what did we say earlier? We went straight down, we went straight up. There's not much liquidity in these levels. Not much liquidity in these levels. And we can see that in the prior market also. And so because of that, we held it here, which was a sign that obviously this is a strong point of support. But if at any given point we lose this level, $20 to the downside, expect some type of 16, 17 to 20% correction back down to some of these lower levels. Now, obviously, then we decide, do we hold this level? Do we not? If we lose that one, then we're in position to come back down to 15. I'm not going to think too far or too deep into all of these little moves. I will update you as it happens, but it is just to go to show that Solana is not necessarily safe from capitulation, because one of these losses could trigger a big, trickle down effect. And understand, Solana's still fragile. It's still fragile. People are still skeptical because of the FTX situation, and that leaves Solana rather fragile. To the upside, I, again, wouldn't necessarily be doing much until this thing gets back above $25.69. That's the level that is going to be the most resistant to this move to the upside, and obviously buying right below that level just doesn't make much sense for me. Okay, so that's what I'm on the lookout for Solana. AVAX made some pretty interesting moves recently. It did actually break its 618 to 786 level. I did think that it was gonna, maybe come back down and look to hold it, but it didn't. It's looking like it's in position to come back up and revisit $20. So for AVAX, even if it does pull to the downside now, the fact that we are looking to get some daily closes above that 786 level tells me that it is very likely, actually, that AVAX will come back up to retest $20. And so because of that, I don't necessarily think that AVAX is a bad purchase. I think even though, again, in the short term, it may pull back, I think over the macros, if this market does stay rather bullish, that AVAX very well could come retest $20. And so with that, pretty decent one. Pretty decent one here, okay? Only thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily be doing a lot of buying, even if I am doing some buying, and the reason being is because on the macros, we've just not retested enough, right? You can see here, we've not retested enough. We didn't retest the trend line. We didn't retest this backwards cup and handle. We didn't retest any of that. And so at any given point, it could do this. So I wouldn't be accumulating a lot, but I definitely wouldn't say, like buying a little bit isn't a terrible idea, because it is starting to make some great progress. Now, I wouldn't be doing a big, like a lot of buying or a big amount of buying until we're capable of course, breaking the most recent macro high, because at this given point, AVAX is still in a downtrend. It's still setting lower highs. It's still in a downtrend. So until we get a higher high, nothing has really changed in the macro. So a little bit of buying here, not a horrible idea, but not a lot of buying until we're capable of breaking that previous point of resistance. Okay. Let's see. Let's get into the next one. What's DXY doing? DXY, I thought I saw someone. I mean, DXY is not really pumping that much, honestly. So anyway, looking at Gala Games, let's go over this thing. So Gala is starting to just give us those warning signs, right? As I mentioned, though, Gala is in a similar position as the ADA Cardano. So for ADA Cardano, I told you guys that the biggest thing that I was on the lookout for was for this thing to break the trend line first and foremost, and that's what it did. It broke the trend line. Then the second thing I said is it needs to set a new high, and that's what it did. It set a new high. So now, even if Gala does come back down and establish a higher low, wherever that may be, which could be as low as 2.8, which is a pretty big crash from here. I mean, that's what, 40%, 35%, something like that, 40%. It's still in position to see growth over the long term, I believe. I think it needs a reset. I would like to see this RSI work its way back down to some of these lower territories, but I do believe that in general, Gala is a rather decent one to be looking at for long-term accumulation. In the short term, I definitely wouldn't be longing it. I definitely wouldn't be going like long on leverage, especially because it's becoming growingly more risky. But overall, I do believe that in general, this could be a rather decent purchase here, especially if we start to get a pullback. So for Gala, I am saving some cash on the sidelines for Gala until we do get a pullback, because I do think that would be the better buying opportunity, especially in the long run, if we are going to see something like this happen, right? something like maybe like that or something. I don't know. You know, maybe trying to pick up in some of these dips wouldn't be a terrible idea before the real rip does happen. And I do believe this rip is going to happen, especially with their new business model. So we'll see, of course. Fantom, this thing's had a freaking week, hasn't it? So Fantom is in a very similar position as Bitcoin, interestingly enough. It had the downtrend, obviously. It had this this descending structure. And dude, I was saying it over and over and over again. It was a lot in the Patreon because I wasn't doing many public live streams just because there wasn't much going on. But I was saying descending structure is a sign of a bottom. It's a sign of a bottom. And so there were a lot of people who picked up on this inverse head and shoulders. They're like, know what? Fuck it. I'm going long. And they went long and they're up substantially. Me, I didn't do it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't commit to a long trade right here. But, you know, it's killing it. Honestly, it cleared this high. It cleared this high. And the last test is getting back above this high, currently at 52 cents. And so for Fantom right now, be careful. Honestly, this thing has gone quite vertical. I would expect some type of pullback to happen, but similarly to Gala, during that pullback, I personally will be doing even more accumulation, buying up a little bit of this thing. Because first and foremost, layer ones are going to have a spot in the next bull run. They always do. But not only that, though, it's showing signs that there are people who are still optimistic and bullish even after this capitulation. And that could be, you know, one of the leading indicators as to why this thing could see some strong growth into the next bull market, okay? And so because of that, I'm looking at Fantom and saying, you know, short term, probably going to get wrecked at some point, but long term, this thing is looking pretty damn good, okay? Fantom's looking pretty good. Alrighty, I think that's for the most part about it for the ones we're going to go over in terms of technical analysis today. Now, I do want to remind you guys, I'm not ending the stream just yet. I am going to talk about something in a second here, but I do want to remind you guys, I did send out the crypto catch-up earlier this morning. I did technical analysis. It's like a written version of everything I just talked about. I gave market analysis, some news, technical analysis, my general thoughts on the market, and there are some pretty good links in there that you can use too, and a free beginner's crypto guide if you're new to crypto for any of you to use, okay? So that is available. Just go to my Twitter and that's all there. You can go to crypto-catchup. I'm not going to read all this out, but that link is on my Twitter and it's in the description down below for you to check out if you want to check it out. Also, if you do want to do some trading, I'm just doing my shameless plugs. Just give me a second. If you want to do some trading, I do have a PrimeXBT account in there. You can get 7% back on your deposits. You can get up to $7,000 in bonuses and a huge discount on all trading fees if you use the link down below. So make sure you do go use that to make sure that you are trading for as cheaply as possible, but seeing as best gains as you possibly can. But anywho, now that the shameless plugging is over, I want to have a bit of a conversation about what all is going on in the market at this given point, and yeah, you know, just kind of keeping you guys super up to date on everything. So what we're seeing in this market, and I kind of hinted at this in the beginning of the stream, but I really want to go into it for a few minutes here. Also, I am wrapping up the stream in like 10 minutes, so leave some questions in the chat if you have them. I'm going to do a Q&A for a couple minutes after this, but this market confirmed to me this week that we are in a more bullish phase. Now, that is not to say that we are going to, you know, do anything extremely bullish. We're not going to 50K, 100K right now. It's probably not going to happen, right? 30K maybe, but whatever. But it confirmed to me that the tides have shifted. Does that mean the bottom is in? No. Do I think the bottom is in? Yes. Which sounds crazy, but I genuinely do. The reason being is because everyone on the sidelines was simply just waiting for their opportunity. Now, what we can see is that even in a moment where this thing has been wrecked, we saw Luna go down, we saw Celsius and Voyager and FTX and all these huge crashes go down, and everyone started to lose faith in crypto. The moment that there was some bullishness, a lot of people's optimism came back almost immediately. And what that tells me is that people are becoming a lot more numb to the pain that crypto causes, right? They're becoming numb to the crashes, numb to the loss, numb to the destruction that we see within this market. And because of that, when things are good, they value it and they love it and they enjoy it. And when things are bad, they just get through it. And that shows a market of resilience. That shows a market of determination, and it shows a market that is going to survive, okay? And the reason why I believe that is so important is because the last thing we want to see in crypto is people stop believing in it. And of course, there are going to be moments. A lot of people stopped believing in it in 2022, but a lot of people also didn't. And whenever you see hundreds of millions of dollars flooding back into crypto just off of a little bit of bullishness, it tells me, yeah, we're going to see another bull market probably. Yep, we're going to see this thing turn around at some point. Yep, we are going to see some of these cryptos hit new all-time highs. Matic itself is up 200 and 300% just in the last couple months. That goes to show that the money is there, the big whales are still buying, and that they're still confident that we are going to see this market grow. And so for you and me, that is a great sign. That goes to show that as long as we stick to our plans, as long as we don't get too emotional, we don't get manipulated too much, as long as we win the games with the whales, we should see life-changing opportunities here. And this week, whenever everything pumped, and not everyone started to sell everything, confirmed that to me. Because the biggest sign that people are losing faith in a market is they sell it every single time it pumps, right? That goes to show they're like, fuck this, I'm getting out, I'm taking the little growth that I've seen and I'm out, right? And if everyone starts to do that, then that starts to say, oh shit, we're draining liquidity right now. People are getting out as much as possible. But that's not what happened. What you can see this week is that we saw these pumps over the last few weeks. Some FOMO did kick in. So some people are saying, well, I don't want to sell it now because what if it does this again, like a moron? But a lot of people are also saying, well, oh well, even if it goes down, I'm just going to buy some more because I'm confident that there's going to be more of this over the long term, right? And so that tells me that there is confidence, and it tells me that there is money ready to take advantage of this market. And so what I want to say to you is that there's going to be a moment where you're going to start to doubt this shit. It's not going to feel like this forever. We feel good right now, and that's what they want you to feel. The whales want you to be like, oh yeah, everything's good. Give me 1 second. I don't know why my chat just muted the comment. But they're gonna want you to feel good. They're gonna want you to feel optimistic. We're gonna get good news. We're gonna get all of these things, and then fuckery is gonna start, where crashes are gonna come. China's gonna ban crypto, blah blah blah. And that's when you have to remember what is happening right now, that the tide is shifting. And don't get drawn into it like, oh, damn, we are back in a bear market. Now, if we go to 15K, 14K, yeah, we're back in a bear market. But we see 20K again, 18, 19,000. It's not the end of the world. Do not forget where we're at right now, because they want you to be really high and get really high in the highs so that when it crashes shit, you get really low in the lows, right? And I want you to avoid that at all costs. Remember where we're at right now. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when bad shit starts. It's just the nature of this game. I've been in a full bear market from the middle of one bear market to the end of the next bull market. I went through that whole phase, and I'm telling you it's going to happen, and you need to be prepared for it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the chat. If there's anyone who has any questions or anything that they want to say, please do leave it there below. I know that this was not around the hour that we usually do for live streams, but it is the end of the week. And honestly, guys, I do have I told you guys that I actually have a MMA fight coming up on March 11th. Making my pro debut as a professional MMA fighter. And today is my cheat day for my diet. So I'm about to turn up today. I'm about to go get some Raisin Canes and probably a king cake. If you live in the South, you know what a king cake is. So I'm about to go eat, honestly. And so, yeah, bit of a shorter stream today. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, of course. So leave some questions down in the chat if you have them. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing on up. I should post again tomorrow. But if no post does come tomorrow, I'll be on the lookout for Sunday. And also, of course, again, guys, please don't forget, it would be huge, huge, huge. And please don't do it if you don't actually want to. But it would be huge if you do go subscribe to the Crypto Catch-Up. It is completely for free. I don't charge anyone. I will monetize it later on. I am going to do some sponsorships and stuff on it later on into the future. That's just business. But it is completely for free. It will stay completely for free. And I do think it's some pretty decent information. What I'll actually do real quick is I want to show you the one that I sent out today. Give me 1 sec. I don't want to. There we go. I do want to show you what I've sent out today. Okay, so here we go. So this is what all I did. So I posted, of course, this crypto at a glance. Here was some news and excerpts of that news. Then I went on to do some technical analysis on Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, XRP, ADA, Solana, Polygon, Matic. And I'm going to rotate these. So I'm like on Monday, I'm going to do some Gala Games and some probably Quant. Like I'm going to implement some different cryptos also. And then at the very bottom, I gave my overall thoughts. And then here's like access to my Patreon link, my PrimeXBT, my YouTube channel, and any of my stuff from Amazon. And so overall, like it is very quick. It's just a quick catch up to let you know exactly what's going on and what, you know, what the market's kind of like right now. So if that is something that'd be interesting to you, please do go subscribe to the thingy. Again, I'm not a super big like shameless plugger, but I will shameless plug the shit out of it because it is a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. So I think you guys would enjoy it too. But overall, reading the chat here, no way, I need to see you fight, post that on it. Yeah, you can literally just go look up Tyler Hill MMA and you'll see me. There's another guy with my name who fights also, which is kind of weird, but you'll know it's me when you see me. Watch. And this is kind of just a chat, guys. Mostly of the crypto stuff is done for the day. I hope you guys did enjoy. And yeah, like this video on your way out. But anyway, I'll show you what. This is me. Your boy right here, and right here. And this one also. But yeah, so that's me. But let's see. Kenny G, what's up, dude? Yeah, I might get some Boudin balls later. Thanks for the updates on the crypto market. Absolutely, Sound of Freedom. I appreciate you jumping in. Alrighty. Can you share your opinion about Aptos? I don't get the pump. Fully diluted market cap like Solana seems not really healthy. I agree. I don't really like Aptos that much. I think it's a VC pool. Again, I just don't like it, to be honest. I don't want to dog on it, and I don't want to talk shit about it, so I'm not going to go too deep. I just don't like it. I feel like they are repeating the same shit that we have seen people make mistakes with that have led to really bad stuff. So I just don't see a point in it. Alrighty, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, everybody. Well, overall, looks like we're about at the end of the stream here. As I said, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I hope you guys do enjoy it. I hope you guys kind of savor this moment because, again, volatility and ugliness is going to happen, but we have to be prepared for it. And I'm going to do my best to be there for you through the whole thing. And I made a tweet about that the other day. It's not to toot my own horn, but fuck it. Sometimes you got to toot it a little bit, right? When we're in a bull market again, when we're in the 2021 phase, 2021 phase, and everything is pumping and Bitcoin's at a new all-time high and shit's going good, remember the people who were the YouTubers and the influencers who were there during the bad shit, all of last year, the last half of 2021. Remember them, because we were the ones who were here every day posting it, right? And there's going to be a lot of these people who are going to come around and who are going to try to say, I said this, I said that, but the proof is in the pudding. And so always remember those people who stuck around through all of this. There's some I don't like. There's some YouTubers I fucking cannot stand. But I do give them credit because they stuck through this entire thing. And that's the people who I think you guys, really, really need to, not take for granted. So other than that, guys, that's about it for the stream. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you had a good weekend. I will see you all very soon. And make sure you do subscribe to the Crypto Catch Up. I'm not going to shameless plug it again. I am just going to end the stream. But again,